The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
This is Africa Diaspora Connect.
Join us as we take the journey from the motherland to America.
We share our experiences and learn from them.
Here is our host, Kibathi Gaturu.
All right. Welcome to the studio where it's at. This podcast is brought to you by Wezesha Real Estate. Now, one of the key civil rights is that right to vote. And never has America been at such a crossroad like the upcoming election in under 2 weeks. Suffrage is the right to vote, especially a political election. And black suffrage has never been this heightened. Following the emancipation, blacks were theoretically equal before the law, including a theoretical, suffrage for black women from 1920. However, in reality, most black men and women were effectively barred from voting from around 1870 until the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, made into law by, I think, was President Lyndon Johnson. It outlawed the discriminatory voting practices adopted in many southern states after the Civil War, including literacy tests as the prerequisite to voting. This law had an immediate impact. By the end of 65, 250,000 of black voters had been registered. By the end of 1966, only 4 out of the 13 southern states had fewer than 50% of African Americans registered to vote. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, was readopted and strengthened in 1970, 75, and 1982. So we're here today. This panel today is all about politicking. It's all about the elections. It's all about in 2 weeks. This is the episode the whole universe is looking towards. The competition is going to be intense. To the left of me, I have Councilman Sokari Chow from Lowell. Welcome to the Africa Diaspora Connect, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. And first, I want to say Abadi Ghani.
Mzuri Sana. Oh, check you out. He's got my vote. And on my right, I got my conservative pundit, my brother, Mr. Big Bogwa Samuel, a conservative Republican he claims to be. Welcome back to the Connect.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So, Councillor Chow, one thing I'm going to talk about. I've been 3 decades in this country, and I live in Worcester, not too far from your constitution and your constituency. Excuse me. And one of the things is within my community, as a Kenyan, we really haven't made strides into the political arena. I think my Ghanaian brothers are doing way better than we are. I mean, maybe they've been there longer than we have. But take us through the journey. You're Cambodian, I do believe, born and raised. How did you get immersed yourself into this world of politics? And basically, what's your journey? And how can we be involved? How can young aspiring adults maybe who want to become politicians, how do they start? How do they get into it?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you for having me to be on this show.
Yeah.
This is amazing, and the first time on a podcast show.
All right.
And we actually have a live audience.
Yeah, there we go. Let's hear from them.
So not the usual studio talking to ourselves. So
Yeah.
we have real listeners here and many listeners worldwide. As you mentioned, I'm Cambodian American. I was born in Cambodia, and there was war and genocide and slavery of some type, because we were put into camp to work for free, basically, ruled by the Communist Party. And when we were able to escape, we escaped through the jungles. And we were sponsored by the Catholic Church to come to the United States.
Oh, wow.
And, without knowing English or anything like that. So you have to learn English, learn the language on the spot. And growing up, pretty much, I came here, not that young. I was 8 or 9 years old. So you learn from the community around you, You learn from the people around you, and you learn in the history books. You learn the people that inspire me the most were also minorities, like Martin Luther King, like Gandhi. That even that time, you learn the language, you don't understand the American culture.
There we go.
But you know that there were people who were making influence, the people changing the world in American history and history worldwide, right? And then when I got older, I learned about the different African leaders in South Africa and pretty much in many African countries, and the struggles that the African went through, even though difficult, different political climates, it's really the same, because it made us uncomfortable, unsafe in our own countries. And our political environment in our countries force us to have to leave, basically, to come to a new world. And so we, like the African diaspora, we have the Southeast Asian diaspora. And as I mentioned to you before, we share similar histories, similar cultures. We come from old world countries.
Yes.
And when you come to the United States, you are encouraged to participate, where in our countries we were not encouraged to participate in politics, right?
This is the land of the free. This is the land of the free.
Dangerous in our countries, but over here you are encouraged to participate. And I took that as very inspiring, and then seeing other people in the community that want to make a difference when they can, when they're able, then they become active in the community. And the reason I say that many of the African communities share the same values as Asian diaspora is that when we come first, our main priority is to have food and shelters for our family, right?
That's true.
And then once we feel that we are comfortable, we are able to provide for our family, our children go to school, they go to colleges, have a good job. And now for us as adults, we want to reach for higher goals. We want to make America our home. And to make America our home, we have to have roots, right? We have roots in our country because of many generations of our ancestors. But we come here, we're not visitors, we're not tourists, right? We live here, we have homes here, we have our kids here, we have grandchildren here. So the best way to have roots is to really participate in the very structure that build your roots, and that is politics, and that is why I want to have history for my family, for my people in America. And talking with many African friends, we share the same values, but the Southeast Asian community, we've been here since 1980s. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think only, especially the Kenyan community and the African community, only been here for about maybe 10, 20 years max, or something like that.
The vast majority, the vast volume. Majority, it's under 2 decades of the vast majority.
So I think I take time. And when I ran the first time in 2017, I've had many African and particularly the Kenyan community supporting me.
There we go.
So, and
me being one of them.
There we go.
So, we have many friends, we have many mutual friends. So you have many Asian friends, many Kenyan friends and African friends, and we share the food, we share drinks, and
and we share cultures. Excellent.
So that's the best part of it, right?
My brother, why is the Republican Party deemed as the Caucasian Party, and the Democratic Party is viewed as the African American Party? Why is that? And the thing is, we immigrants, if we sat down and did our homework, I think based on everything that we put forward and our ideologies, I think we're more Republican, but we never want to vote. We never want to go that way. What's your take on that?
Well, Mr. Kibathi, thank you for having me back again.
Yes.
As one of the investors and sponsors of this great podcast, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
But I'm going to tell you something. When you did the introduction of the podcast, you said, we came to study and go back home.
Yes, that's
and
what
we have never gone back home. So, could you have imagined 30 years ago when you landed here, or myself, I'm close to 25 years since I came from Kenya. I was under 21. I could not even buy myself a bottle of Heineken in a bar. I had to send somebody there and sneak it outside for me. Could you have thought that we can have a podcast relating to African matters? No. Could you have thought that we will have the first black president in America? Never. Okay. Could you have thought that we have councillor in Lowell from Cambodia. Never. So things are changing. And as things change, we have to understand something simple. A book that I always carry with me, the Constitution of the United States of America. I always take this book with me wherever I go.
You're lying, but
it's only keep us. It's only keep us the people. So now the biggest problem we have with the African in the diaspora, we don't realize where we lie in between. Majority of them have become United States citizens, and majority of them are green card holders, but they don't vote because they don't know what they are voting for. Coming back to your question now, the way we were born and raised in a conservative manner, in a conservative way, whereby you have to respect the elders. We never knew anything about abortion, gay, all those things. We just came to learn about them when we came to America. So most of the Africans, our roots, our behavior, and our way of upbringing is nothing else but Republican Party. Myself, I'm a registered Republican. I'm a conservative, but this time I'm not voting Trump.
Like you did the last time.
I never voted for Trump last time.
Oh, okay.
I never voted for Trump last time. I voted for Hillary just because my daughter was gonna kill me that night if I voted for Donald Trump just to make the first woman president. But I knew Hillary is going nowhere, being crooked the way she was crooked. They called her Hillary Clinton, the crooked Hillary Clinton. And that's how I saw her, and I knew she's gonna lose against Donald Trump. This time around, maybe Democrats have a better chance of taking the White House. Joe Biden is doing well. But as I said again, we Africans are conservatives and we belong to the Republican Party. Just get this book, study it, know your rights, and you're going to have a good life in America. Know how you can own a gun, know what to do, your Second Amendment, First Amendment, all the way to the 21st Amendment.
All right, let me pay some bills. Wazesha Real Estate, currently developing in Malindi and Zani City Gardens. Malindi, one of the key gateways of the east coast of Africa. Floating blocks from 1, 2, 5, 10, and 50 acres, only 30 minutes away from Malindi Airport, sitting on well-drained red soil, competitive, affordable prices. Reach out to their local agent, Mike, at 603-557-2513 or visit www.wazesharealestate.com. Be empowered by Wazesha Real Estate. We're paying bills, sponsors, ka-ching. So, let's discuss this minority vote, all right? We'll go with you, Counselor. For the first time, the African-American, Hispanic, and Asian vote is of relevance. A third of all the registered voters now are people that look like us, all right? What's your take, and how do you think, how have we gotten to this level right now where we're doing something magnificent? It's because of councilmen like you, but tell us, what do you think about this new force of power that we possess?
You are absolutely right. This is probably one of the most exciting years for election in history, because we have so many minority groups are excited to vote. And it's kind of, it's a charged political environment. And unfortunately that we as minority only come to a political scene where bad things happen. As you know, this year with the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many other African Americans. You know, we before we feel like, oh, you know, my vote, my political participation didn't mean anything. My vote doesn't count. And to be honest, really, I think we were comfortable, even though there were injustices here and there. You can close your eyes to it, and you can pretty much live your everyday life comfortably. But now what happened is so close to home, close to our hearts. And you know, I think because of the social media reporting up to the minute of live events, and we begin to think, hey, you know, this could happen to me personally. This could happen to my brothers, my sisters, my sons, could happen to my next door neighbors. If I don't do something, if we don't vote, things are going to get progressively worse. So,
but Councillor, I beg to differ with you. you're talking about the killings that happened during Donald Trump. What about the killings of African Americans that happened during Obama time? There were so many killings just the same. So why do you think? I don't think African Americans are ready to vote. I don't think the millennials are also ready to vote. They just gonna do the same shenanigan that they did in 2016, whereby they wanted, in quotes, Bernie Sanders to be on the Democratic Party. He never won. Crooked Hillary won, and millennials never went out to vote. So I don't think, I mean, what you are saying is somehow the truth, but I think we have a long way and we have a long process to make our African American people and the Africans in the diaspora who are naturalized U.S. citizens to vote, because so many deaths of African American also happened during Obama, and the same people never came out to vote.
To your point, actually, statistics do show actually the African American vote has actually slumped. It's actually subsiding. The Asian vote has almost doubled in the past decade. The Hispanic vote has up over 6%. The African American vote, however, it's down. It's flatlining.
I think to kind of address your questions a little bit, systematic racism exists for a very long time, for many decades, and for one reason or another, the minority group as a whole, not just Asian or Africans or what have you, I'm going to bundle all the minority groups as a whole, is that we stay quiet for too long. And it doesn't mean that it's right, that we stay quiet before during the other presidential administration. There were more killing of African Americans and nobody did anything, and that's not right either. But this year it is politically charged, and I feel that not only that the minorities are rising, so to speak, to take the political stage, but now you have members of the other ethnic communities, the Caucasian communities or what have you. Their kids grow up, they're going to school in diversity, and so now they're stepping up to support the African community in this situation, right? You have Asian who are supporting Black Lives Matter. You have the Caucasian community, the progressive community, what have you, that are stepping up to support the Black Lives Matter. And that in turn encourage more minorities and especially members of the African community, they'll be encouraged to step up to vote as well. So maybe these incidents, these events did not happen before, where you only have one group try to fend for themselves. I think this year, it's kind of a contradiction, right? On the one hand, you have a small group of people that's causing all kinds of separation, a lot of division, a lot of controversy, but for the most part, there are more people of all ethnicity, of all groups, stepping up in unity, trying to make a change. And I think that's why, I'm glad that you changed your political view. Even you yourself seeing like Biden and Harris now has a very strong possibility of winning, right?
They do.
So that's because people are stepping up. I mean, I would have to say many people are in the middle. They did not make the decision to go Republican or Democrat before, but I think because of what happened this year, they might be thinking, hey, it's time to have the Democrat Party in the White House again. Try to work through some of the social injustices, trying to correct some of the wrong, and in the process, trying to encourage and raise everybody up again. Make America right again, right?
I like that.
Well, let me say this. As a Republican, the only reason I'm not voting Trump this year or this election is because he has been trashing out my fellow immigrants. Was it not for that, I think Trump is a man, he is a doer, he does what he says he'll do, he follows through his policies, unlike our Obama. Obama is the first African-American president.
Be careful.
I'm being very careful.
I'm the host. I could mute you right now.
Oh yeah. Obama, and I respect him and I voted for him. But guess what? I don't think Obama did enough for the African-American for the 8 years he was in power.
Enough. What do you want him to do?
Okay, so what do you want Trump to do more? Everybody is blaming Trump.
You came from a shithole country.
No, but guess what? It is true. Our countries are shield countries. It is true. Nothing wrong with that. Where we come from, we don't have rule of law. Anybody can do whatever they want. But when we come to America, we have to abide by the laws. If you compare the laws and doing things in America and my motherland, Kenya, it's so different. There is so much corruption in our country. And that's why most of us are here to stay. And I've always told my good friend, Newton Wabogo, from America to heaven. There is no anywhere else. From America is to heaven. Thank you.
Next question. Mail-in voting. Mail-in voting. Okay, the pandemic is taking us through an amazing turbulence here. Everything has changed, all right? This thing called Corona is driving us nuts. Tell me about mail-in voting and the pros and cons, and what's your take on this whole episode?
My pleasure. I feel this is almost like the presidential debate here with my good friend on the other side of the host, and you don't want to leave a good topic. But before I address the mail-in voting, just want to slightly say about the difference between Obama and President Trump in terms of handling of the crisis and the killings. You're right, the killings exist with every presidential administration. But I think the major difference between President Obama was that he addressed the issues. He recognized that it was a problem when he was a president with the killing of African Americans at that time. He tried to address the issue. Whereas President Donald Trump now, he denies it, the same thing that he denies about the coronavirus, right? So I think that's a humanity issue. Sometimes, you think you have the power to do many things as elected officials, but sometimes you cannot. You cannot solve every crisis, every problem immediately. And it takes time, just like the voting and the rising of the minor groups. We are rising. We are coming to the forefront. We're part of the mainstream politics now. Thanks for everybody coming together. Just for me, it's an honor for me to be here now with my Kenyan friends to talk about politics. Whereas before, we would just stay in our own zone, basically.
Silos.
Right, in our own silos and deal with our own small issues within the community. Now it's connected, right? Mm-hmm. And as a city councilor, that's one of the things that I did put a motion when it came out that at the federal level, they were talking about defunding the postal service. And we were afraid that many of the disenfranchised minority groups would not be able to cast their votes. So I put in a motion at the city level, municipal level, to make sure that all, that there will be funding and make sure that the vote in by mail were all accounted for, put out education, literatures and so forth, make sure that people have access to request the mail, the vote by mail ballots. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the great things about democracy. When you have people able to vote, the more people vote, the better the democracy system is, right?
So you're okay with the mail-in? You're okay with it?
Absolutely. And not just because of the coronavirus pandemic. It came about because of the virus this year, but I would support it in any year going forward because it's a way to really encourage different groups of people to vote, to participate in democracy. Some people, they don't feel comfortable going to the polls. Some people are working and so forth. But, mail-in, you're more likely to vote. And the more people vote, the better the democracy system is. And you're going to have the people that you want to represent, you could elect it.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But you know what President Trump said? This whole mail-in thing is so simple. So he's like, you know what? More minorities are going to vote now. He fears he doesn't want it because it's too simple.
Vote mailing has been happening for many years,
but not to this level.
But this time, because of the pandemic, it's gonna be mammoth of people be voting by mail. So maybe if he is losing, he's scared of.
Because a lot of people, it's easy for you minorities. That's why now you're going to beat him. Yeah, that's what he said.
Right.
So let's talk about this. There's two key things on the ballot. There are two questions on this ballot that are driving everyone crazy. Who wants to go with this one?
I'll go first. I think the first question, it's all about whether the dealership who happens to have the parts that only you can get from the dealer. They can have your information and share it with the local mechanic versus local mechanic not getting the information. So it's a tricky question, and that, I think that is question 2, right?
That's question 1.
Question 1. Question 1, we should vote no.
No?
No.
No.
Why are we voting no?
Yep.
Why do you say, why are you voting no?
Why are you voting no?
Yeah.
Because it's all about regulation. It's all about the dealership. It's about who is making money here and there. So to me, question 1 is no.
Okay. All right. Question.
The reason I hesitate because I'm a little bit shocked that you vote no for that.
Why are you shocked?
Because you are a small business person, right?
Yep.
And I think the way it's worded out there, sometimes in any ballot question is a legal wording. Sometimes no mean yes, yes mean no. That's why I want to make sure that I understand your answer correctly. But I did read up on it.
I did, because it's all about the data breach. I don't want my data to be shared by everybody else.
Right. So I think the question 1 is yes. If you vote yes, it means that you have the right to take your vehicle to repair anywhere, to any shops. You can choose to still take it to the dealers if you wish, if you're comfortable, and frankly, if you have a lot of money. For most working class people, they rather take it to their neighborhood shops. Yeah. And I have many friends and even my family members who run shops, garages, and so forth. Yeah. And I'm not a high-tech guy anyway. And I don't know many garage owners, many mechanics who are high-tech people. So I think when people vote against it, they worry about the information being hacked. I have to laugh a little because if you know the mechanics, these shop owners, they are like hands-on tradespeople. Yeah. They want to fix it, and also, but at a business level, that's their survival. That's how they that's how they raise their families, take care of the families. But at the same time, without question 1 or question 2, without question 1 or 2, the local mechanics are still repairing our cars. So at the end of the day, that question 1, yes or no, it wouldn't matter that much because you still can take your car to the mechanic.
And what's the model? I think it's 2022, right?
Yeah, 2022. So that's slowly. Yeah. What it does is that it slowly edges out the small business owner out of. They phase them out slowly. So after 2022, after like you own a car for 3, 4, 5 years, right? The car's gonna get some fixing and so forth. And then if the local mechanics, the local garages don't have access to this information, the car owners will have to take it to the dealers. And slowly you're going to put out these put these businesses out of business, basically, right? Yeah. And we know that small business really the backbones of communities, all communities, right? And if you just like put all the small businesses out of business, not only that their families suffer, but the community suffer too. Yeah. And then all you're going to have just big businesses everywhere, right? So, I'm a local guy. I like to support my community. I support small businesses.
At the grassroots level.
Right. And when you're talking about technology and information, they can learn, right? So if people can hack into this information that's supposedly protected by or developed by the manufacturer, there's a very, very small probability. It's very, very highly improbable, to say differently, that anybody want to mess around with it. But that will be the problems of the program designer, right? Yeah. But the other thing too is that the information that's being stored in these vehicles are really mechanical data. They're not like your personal data. They're not your credit card, your social security. Yeah. It's just driving habits. It's just mechanical data, right? And I really appreciate all the applause out there. So really gave me a lot of energy. And we were talking. I was talking with the audience before this. Like our smartphones, by you using it, it's gathered all kinds of information already, and actually probably more dangerous information about you, and most likely that people are focused into hacking those information more from your smartphones than from your vehicles.
True.
So in my opinion.
Number two, I'll let you go first. Ballot question number 2.
Ballot question number 2 relates to ranked choice voting.
Yes.
As opposed to right now, it's a popular vote.
Popular vote.
Right. So you vote for the person that you would like to represent you, and in a presidential election, you'd be just 101, and some other municipal or state election, you vote for multiple candidates, but you only can cast one for your favorite candidate to represent you. In a ranked choice, you rank the candidates. If there are 3 candidates running for the same seat, you rank them in order 1, 2, 3. Which one is your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice? And then in the old days, it would be virtually impossible because you have to sit down and do the counting, the math, the calculation, and so forth. But now you have computer programming that really sorts and ranks based on your vote to calculate and tally, which candidate has the most number 1, which candidate has the most number 2, and the lower. So if the candidate that gets 51%, they automatically win.
Yep.
But if a candidate, so out of those 3, to follow the example, the person with the least amount of vote, they get dropped out automatically. And the losing candidate, if you vote for the losing candidate, your number 1 choice would be transferred to the other candidate that's
number 2.
Still on the ballot, not number 2,
it
right?
Sounds like brain surgery. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's harder to explain actually.
Yeah.
That is actually to do. That is actually to vote.
Okay.
Because we do this every day anyway already. Because we rank our choices every day.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Just sports team, for example, right? You can rank who's your favorite top three baseball team, right?
Okay.
The Red Sox, the Mets, and the Yankees, right?
No, it's Red Sox, and Red Sox.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. So that the Yankees would be dropped off, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not popular here.
So question 2 is yes.
Yeah. So I would support that.
Yeah.
To thank you for
That one is a yes.
So that's the clean one right there.
Right, right,
okay.
right.
Okay.
Audience, yes.
All right. There's one thing. I mean, I'm one of those political apathetic folks who don't really go out there and do what needs to be done. But that said, this thing with the Electoral College, I mean, can someone break it down to me like a 2-year-old? What is it all about? How does it work? Because how do you lose by 3 million votes and you're still in charge? This thing is dumb. Just someone, Bogua, can you?
Well, with the Electoral College is number of electors. We vote for president indirectly. But when we vote we're going to vote, I think, November 3rd.
Yeah.
In December, the Electoral College will meet in Washington and vote for the president. But it's all the same at the end of the day because how many do we have? 538? We have 538.
Yeah.
That is the number of U.S. representatives in the U.S. Capitol. So having said that, what they do is 48 states out of 50 states, it's winner take it all.
Okay.
The only 2 states that winner doesn't take it all is Nebraska and Maine. Those are the only 2 states whereby Trump can win a popular vote and lose on Electoral College.
Okay.
Maine, you can lose on a popular vote and win on Electoral College.
Okay.
All the other states, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, it's winner takes it all. So if you win popular vote in Massachusetts, the Electoral College, they'll vote you in. So it's all about making sure that people are represented equally from the largest, California with 55 electoral votes, 55 representative, I think, to Maine, which has 3 electoral votes. Massachusetts, I think we have 11. New Hampshire, how many do you have?
But
You have I'm not sure how many we have in New Hampshire, but I know Massachusetts we have 11.
Okay.
California 55. I think Texas has about 35. So the more people you represent in a given certain area, you earn an electoral vote, which is also equals to a U.S. representative at the U.S. Capitol.
Isn't this thing old? Isn't it archaic? It's
Yeah, I mean that's a great answer, explaining it about Electoral College votes, and it is an old system, and I personally don't like it either. Because it's I think when you have that system, it's when they had it. I'm not like a history buff as I should be being in politics, but it works for the time. And as they say, the times are changing.
Yeah.
The population is changing, so I think they should change the way you elect, the way you vote also.
Okay.
And so that's what I agree. I like.
You mentioned two states, Maine and Nebraska.
Maine and Nebraska.
Okay, and what is a swing state? What's a swing state?
Swing state, even Massachusetts can be a swing state during the next presidential election.
Okay.
It's all about the competition. So most people think swing state are New Hampshire, Iowa, Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida, and Michigan. Those 7 states, they refer them as swing state because at the time of elections, majority of the people are undecided on whom they're going to vote. Obama turned all of them blue in 2008.
Okay.
No Republican has ever won presidency without winning Ohio. Trump won Ohio last time. Right now, Biden is leading in Ohio. Does that guarantee that Biden will win the presidency? We don't know. So swing state is because they are not decided whom they will vote for. So you can go there, talk to the people, just like they do during the Iowa caucuses, and they'll vote for you. So swing state, even Massachusetts, maybe 10 years from now, it can be a swing state.
Okay. Let me talk about the census and why was it so important for us to really fill out those forms and get back to that information? What's important? Because a lot of us took it for granted, and I think it has a political aspect towards it as well. Why was it so critical for us to fill out the census?
Right. You're right. Everything is very political these days, but the census should not be, because that's one of the things that it directly benefits the residents of the towns, the city, and the state, because it funds the way the federal decide how much money go to a town, a city, or a state. It depends on the population and the makeup of the population.
Understood.
And if the population increase, and if you don't complete the census, where the real population should be 110,000, and it's only 80,000 who completed that.
Got it.
You're only going to get funding for about 80,000 residents.
Understood.
So what that means would be less money for social services, less money for schools, less money for police department, fire departments, hiring all kinds of workers, infrastructure development, and so forth. So that money really, really benefits your communities.
Understood.
If you don't complete the census, we could miss out on the funding from the federal level.
Is it every 10 years? How often?
It's every 10 years.
Every 10 years.
And again, about census, counting of people has been there since time immemorial. Remember, when Jesus was born, his parents were heading back to Bethlehem to be counted, right?
Is it in here? Is it in this? It's a constitution.
I hope it's in here, but it's not. But Councillor, you can agree with me. Counting of people has been there, and as you said, the less people are counted, the less funding a community get from the federal government. So the question is, have you returned your census?
Good.
Have you?
Yes, absolutely.
You have?
Yeah.
All right.
100%.
Good for Worcester.
No, I did it for Worcester. You're going to love this. As we're winding down, what's the impact of this Supreme Court nomination in this election? What is the impact, and why is the big man pushing it so hard?
Well, first of all, I don't see anything wrong with Trump nominating the judge right now, because when a president is elected, you go for 4 years, not 3.5, or 3.25. So Trump had the right to nominate Judge Barrett, and I think she's a wonderful lady. She is a nice lady. She has these black kids that she adopted from Haiti. So I think she is gonna be,
because she has black kids.
Just being that, just being that she has black kids. I don't think she will be on the far left or on the far right. She will meet somewhere in the middle, and I don't think it has nothing to do with this election. And she said very clearly yesterday that this election, she might even remove herself if it ever goes to the Supreme Court, because she is not even aware about anything. So I think she's a nice person, and Trump deserved to have that nominee. As a conservative, I want us to have more judges who are conservative in the Supreme Court.
Any your take on that?
Well, I don't disagree with her qualifications. She's very smart. She's very qualified.
Yeah.
But I think, unfortunately, I do agree that the president has the constitutional right to nominate her. But I think it's just too political. He's rushing it. If you're trying to do what is best for the country, why not allow time to have the hearing to go properly instead of rushing it?
But Democrats would do the same. Democrats could have done the same as Trump did.
All right. So are the Russians? Yeah. Are the Russians coming after us again?
I think so.
So guys, as we wind down, listen. This is important, man. Please vote, and we like you when you comment. Please. On your comments, just tell us where you voted. Tell us that you voted. Comment on this one, guys. To summarize all this right about now, the beating of Mr. Trump here tops the lists, guys, okay? For us black folks. The prospects of 4 more years of this administration is about more than politics. It's personal. It's a reaction born of real fear, of the racism that led a white man to shoot Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, and a white police officer to press his knee into the neck of George Floyd in Minnesota, of the racism that every day results in more black people dying of coronavirus. African Americans see this, and they see a president who does nothing to stop it. Guys, it's a pleasure to have you here today. It was thought-provoking. Once again, let's give thanks to our advertisers today. They're called Wezesha Real Estate. Thank you so much. So please comment, like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and hit that ding-dong icon, that bell. You'll be notified with every release. Questions, comments, concerns, please email us at africandiasporaconnects@gmail.com. Comment, tell us you voted and where you voted. Thank you so much, Council. And when are the elections again for you?
Next year.
Next year. We're going to see you.
Years.
All right. My brother, as usual. Thank you so much. Audience, it's been real.
Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.